Okay, no doubt there'll be a couple of people arrive as I'm going along, but for your information, this session is being recorded. It will end up on YouTube for you to share amongst staff or otherwise, or for refreshing people's memory, whatever it be. Okay, so kind of without further ado, as it were, I'm going to use my screen and present, do a bit of talking, show and so forth, but largely be screen driven. Those that have been on the previous webinars will know the focus was very Office 365. This will be more general, but it will have obviously a slant on the security around Office 365 and that of you and your staff and the people around you that are using online services. Okay, so the first thing I am going to do is just share my desktop and bring that up. Okay, so you should see I've just got PowerPoint running here as an application. Deliberately not running it as a PowerPoint show because I need to flip-flop between various other windows at the same time. So I am here to talk about security, and this is a big deal today. Why? Because we consume so much of our content today online, whether that's Netflix, Amazon Prime, whether that's cloud storage, whatever it be, okay? But then if we take that into our work environment, we're using online services, whether they be Dropbox, whether they be Office 365, OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams, etc. So we've got this huge uptake of cloud technology over the past few years. Unfortunately, people's mentality to security hasn't gone in pace with that. And unfortunately, what we've got to talk about is what's the biggest risk. Well, we are the biggest problem, and the evidence is everywhere to be seen. And I shall bring up some bits and pieces. I mean, here's a great picture. This was during one of the hurricanes that hit America a few years ago. And this was actually taken off a screen grab of basically a television broadcast, and pinned to the screen at the bottom right-hand corner is a post-it note with warning point 2 with a title of password. Thanks very much for telling the whole world. So we definitely have a problem to deal with. Okay, we know what that problem is. It's these damned things. Okay, passwords. They're our everyday bane of our life. And a bit of a security nightmare. So I said I'm going to bring up some kind of evidence to perhaps support the fact that we are the problem. We've probably heard on the press such things as dark web and this kind of sinister side of computing and online services with hackers and all of the stuff you might want to throw around, you know, and the conspiracy theories and all the rest of it. But here's the evidence, because there have been many breaches over the years. Okay, and those breaches, when people have lost data, have meant that the unscrupulous hacker, who makes a lot of money, combines all of these findings into massive files. Let me just put this into perspective for you. Okay, I'm going to bring over another website and show you. Some of you might have seen this website. It's Have I Been Pawned? Okay, not pawned as in what you might think. No, pawned, P-W-N-E-D. That basically means have you been compromised? So I'm just going to type in my work email address, and just to put this into perspective. Okay, I know some of you might have seen it, some might not. Oh dear, I have been. 9 breaches. So thank you, Adobe. This one here, collection 1. A large collection of credentials stuffing lists. Now, just to put that into perspective, that is a file with 773 million records, to which, as you have seen, my work email address and password at the time it was breached from Adobe, whoever, is in that list. Okay, now that list has actually gone on to now be 1.2 billion. So hackers have access to 1.2 billion usernames and passwords. So this calls into question, you know, how good are people with passwords? Well, when you actually go to dark web and download said file with everything in it, okay, you end up with something that doesn't look very friendly. It's basically encrypted hashes, they're called. But let me just, these are the top 12 or so. Okay, and this is what they translate to in terms of the results. The top one there, the 22.7 million people on this planet use a password of 123456. Let's just go down that top 10 plus list. They're all pretty disgraceful. So when I say we are the problem, the facts and the evidence support we are the problem. So passwords are a problem because people use weak passwords. You might those be aware of Ring, the old smart doorbell. Lots of hoo-ha about people's accounts getting hacked. As an example, press make a big deal of it. Everyone's to blame. The reality is, if you actually look at that, the people that got hacked all had a password that's on those lists. So who's the cause? Debatable, but I'd see the biggest threat to a business is the staff. I'm just going to mute my mic because I'm going to cough, sorry. Okay, back with you. Okay, so we've got to do something about passwords. Now, let me just say, piece of advice to everyone. You shouldn't be using passwords. You shouldn't be using a dictionary word because it's too easy. Okay, for anything to be breached, that's just a regular password. There is a website here called howsecureismypassword.net. You might be cynical and have a conspiracy theory, put some tin foil on your head and run around, okay, about that this could be stealing your password. Well, a company that makes it is actually a password manager company, so it's in their interests. If you bother to read all the details here, no data leaves this web page whatsoever. But you know, let me just put in one of those passwords. Well, you wouldn't be surprised that if I type in one of those passwords, they're decrypted instantly. But also, interestingly, if I hit the shift key on my keyboard and use lots of fancy characters, hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that's just an exclamation mark, at sign, or quote marks, pound sign, dollar sign, %, etc. As you can see, it's complex. It wouldn't be easily memorable, but it would be decoded instantly because it's just humanly obvious. A computer picks out the fact that we're lazy, okay, and it can still decrypt a password. So really useful here to check whether a password is good or not. Now, how do I make a password good? Make it a passphrase, a phrase. I don't know, think of a crummy film, Fast and Furious. You know, let me just type in Fast and Furious. Okay, so I was a bit better. 13,000 years, and I have just typed in a number of words and joined them together, and it all of a sudden comes complicated. So phrases, people, not words. Choose a phrase: poetry, film, book, don't care, might work in an industry with some weird and wonderful names to do with products that are sold and bought, but use a phrase. Okay, if you want to be clever, you can put numbers in there, PIN number, not date of birth, please. Too obvious, too easy. Maybe your credit card, debit card, PIN number will certainly make that difference. You know, add a few more. There's a PIN number, 4 digits, 85 billion years. I think I'm good now. So, okay, so I've got all these passwords. Well, I can't have the same password for every website. Oh, my poor little brain's not to cope with this. Okay, it's too much to remember. So I need a password manager. I am not sponsoring LastPass by any stretch of the imagination. It's an example. Okay, it's downloadable. It costs money. There are free ones. There's lots of them. Dashlane, etc. Tons of them. Everyone's probably got a kind of £750, £1,000 smartphone. Let's put that on there. Let's use it. It can then be embedded into your web browser. You don't have to remember any passwords. It does it all for you. I will show you one functioning in a minute. Okay, so to that end, I will just demonstrate what I'm talking about. I'm going to lock up my phone. And I actually happen to use LastPass and say I'm not sponsored in any way. I use it in my personal life. But if I click on that, the only thing I actually need to do is use biometrics to unlock it. I'm not going to unlock it because that's my password manager and I'm not going to publish that to YouTube. But face, finger, biometric security, very good indeed. Okay, and as you see, it did actually quickly unlock it. because I put my finger on the home button, but it didn't show you anything. Okay, so a password manager is your route to salvation. I'm also going to talk about something else called multi-factor authentication, okay, which I'll talk about in Office 365. But if you use any service, I don't care if it's Amazon, Twitter, LinkedIn, the list could go on and on. You should have that enabled without any doubt whatsoever. And if you don't think people aren't trying to get into your account, let me show you this. This is real data from today. This is actually our Office 365. As you can see, Vietnam, Belarus, China, Kenya, I don't think so, Bosnia, Belize. And these are people trying to get in to our Office 365 all day, every day. Okay, when they get in, you don't know about it because they don't want you to know about it. And here, just to back this up a bit more, here's my personal email address, China, Russia, okay, China, unsuccessful. So these idiots are at it all the time. If you don't have multi-factor authentication, you've missed a whole opportunity to safeguard yourself. So let me just show this functioning. Okay, I'm just going to again share my screen, hopefully show you it functioning. So I am going to sign in to actually, in my case, Office 365, because I want to be nice and safe. I'm doing this on another screen. There we go. I've received a request. I'm clicking on that with my finger and biometrically approve it. And what's happening on my other screen is I have just been signed in. So what does that mean to you in plain English? Is having MFA now means, really, in a sense, doesn't matter what your passphrase, password is, a hacker now needs to also have your mobile phone. So unless MI5 are tracking you, some bloke who's trying to get in isn't going to. So multi-factor authentication, an absolute must for anyone that's using an online service. Okay, other top tip, pretty obvious really, I'm going to circle back on some of this, is every web page you visit, you want to see that S, you want to see that padlock, okay, in the web browser. If you don't see it, don't go there, don't put any information in, that's for sure, 100%, okay, because that means it's not encrypted. I think that one's pretty old knowledge really now. What about your online pitfalls then, people's behavior? Okay, you know, I do see this, even LinkedIn and Facebook, you know, people will just happily accept any invitation that comes in from LinkedIn. Okay, do you not think people build fake profiles and deliberately try and data mine bosses of companies, directors, CEOs, FDs, etc.? Because if you don't think it goes on, I'm sorry, you need to kind of wake up. This is what people do. Okay, they will try and befriend you, create a fake profile, generate some interest, get in your LinkedIn profile, thank you very much, start to build up a picture on people. This is when you start to get the spear phishing emails, those ones that are trying to trick you, pay this invoice, please, send it to the person in accounts from your account, all the rest of it. This is how it all starts. So be very cautious of what you give away and what you allow. Facebook, you know, you get these little automatic posts go, what will be your I don't know, your Viking name, and then it asks your name, I don't know, your age and so forth. It is social engineering, it is collecting information. Be very wary what you give away online. Now, I know that sounds very conspiracy theory type based, okay, flying saucers and all the rest of it, but I'm afraid to say it goes on. So the output of all of this, when people have collected information off the dark web with usernames and passwords, and bear in mind usernames are email addresses, they've maybe collected information easily through online services, then of course your worst enemy is email. The truth is, if you didn't use USB drives and didn't have email, we wouldn't have a problem. Okay, email is a massive problem and should be completely untrusted. when I will talk about a few things, and I've got a few minutes to do that. Right, so I'm going to minimize that out of the way, and I'm going to